My gorgeous, amazing weather weenies. You guys ask some of the best questions. There were two recently, and they're very much related, so we're going to go over both of them. Potentially dumb question. No, absolutely not. Never. There are no dumb questions with me. We are a safe space. I will answer what you guys want. Will they have to brace for storm surge like the people of Florida do for hurricanes, or is it different because it's an island? Sorry, this is dumb. Stop. You don't have to be sorry. The question that's similar that I want to talk about at the same time is this top one. Why don't they call storms like Eowyn a hurricane? It has low pressure and big wind. You see, there are similarities and differences between a hurricane and this type of storm. So let's start with where they're similar. They are both storms. They are both very, very deep areas of low pressure. They are both in the northern hemisphere. They both rotate counterclockwise. They both have strong meteorological impacts, tremendous amounts of rain, very strong winds, stuff like that. It could have the potential for storm surge. So what storm surge is when you have a part of the ocean that actually rises up because of the storm. This happens for a couple reasons. One, because of the area of low pressure. Low pressure itself causes the ocean to rise a little bit. That's like 5 to 10% of it. The other is really high winds that kind of push this up against here. So if you were to have a storm like Eowyn impact certain areas, yes, storm surge is going to be an issue, but not for Ireland. Now I dug around like crazy on this one because we're getting into like I don't know Ireland. I don't know its layout, its geography or any that kind of stuff. I know where it is, but I don't know like what's happening under the sea, and that's a big part of it. So I'm looking around, and if you notice, when you look at the coasts of Ireland, first of all, there's a lot of cliffs, a lot of steep elevations right along the water. The reason places like Florida have to worry about storm surge is it's relatively flat. You get very low elevation gains, and also what's happening with the seafloor under there. So as you get a storm surge that rises up, it gently is able to go along the seafloor, and you have that consistent high water gently move up the seafloor and make its way on land with not big elevation changes. So water is able to make its way inland a lot. Ireland is just not laid out the same way. Has nothing to do with the fact that it's an island. Islands can completely get swept over as well, like look at the Florida Keys, completely susceptible to storm surge. Ireland's just a little bit different with regard to its layout. Like go find any satellite image of Ireland and it's like cliffs. So it would take a substantial storm surge, but I also reached out to a meteorologist across the pond to see what they had to say. She reminded me that one, they don't have as many beaches, and two, they're not building homes or large buildings directly on those beaches. They may have little huts and things that can get eroded away by storms, and you could have things blow over there. But they don't have big, substantial buildings, living structures right along the few beach areas that are there. And I looked like crazy for storm surge warnings, coastal warnings about flooding and stuff like that, and it's just non-existent. So for this particular location, the question is a great one. Do they have storm surge and could it affect it? It could in other locations, just Ireland is not one of them. Now let's talk about why this isn't a hurricane. This is Storm Eowyn from space, and it kind of has this comma shape, and hurricanes are round, right? Like this. They're not comma shaped, they're complete. Eowyn is what we call a mid-latitude cyclone or an extratropical cyclone. And the way it works and operates and functions is different than a hurricane, very similarly to the way to like engines, how you can have a gasoline engine and a diesel engine. They both do the same thing. They both run cars. They both provide horsepower and torque. But if you put diesel into the fuel engine, it won't work, and vice versa. And that's how these storms are too. A hurricane's fuel is that very, very warm ocean water. And what keeps them going and running like an engine is you get this moist, humid air over the ocean. It gets risen up into the area of low pressure. It rises, it cools, it condenses. The condensation releases heat, which warms up more things. And as you get more rising, more condensation, more condensing, more heat from that warm ocean water, that's what fuels these storms to keep going. And that's the fuel for a hurricane. A mid-latitude cyclone or an extratropical cyclone like Eowyn is fueled by different temperatures, like warm and cold, very close to each other, and also the jet stream shooting above it. You see, out ahead of this storm, you'll have warm, moist, humid air, and that rises to help kind of create this area of low pressure. Behind it, you'll have cold air sinking in, and so you kind of have this turbulence that's going on. But what causes you to keep having this friction and to fuel a storm like this is you have the jet stream going right over top of it. Now, the jet stream, with air moving very, very fast, causes the air to like separate. It almost creates a void up above that has to be filled from below. So with the jet stream going over it, it helps to strengthen these areas of low pressure and allow them to keep going and keep moving. And so that's kind of the fuel for these mid-latitude cyclones. Hurricanes can and do go extratropical, so they're warm. They run with those really warm ocean waters, and as they move into cooler ocean temperatures, that storm can keep wreaking havoc through New England, through Nova Scotia, as it goes extratropical. It still has downpouring rain. It still has tremendous wind. It's just being fueled by a different system. Superstorm Sandy is probably the most standout recent memory we have. This is a satellite image of Sandy as it was making landfall. And you see, not looking quite hurricane-like anymore, but comma-shaped. Upside down, but comma-shaped. A hurricane can, and does, turn into a mid-latitude cyclone as it moves its way through the Atlantic and goes to those northern locations and has to re-evolve to get a completely different fuel source. But a mid-latitude cyclone has not, and probably will not, ever go and turn into a hurricane. Mid-latitude cyclones give us storms in the Midwest. Give us our nor'easters here in New England. They're just a little bit of a different beast.